All right, you guys, welcome back to your Caviar podcast. My next guest, Michelle C. Bonilla.
Oh,
Hi. Thank you so much for coming. She's an amazing actress, voiceover artist, director.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything in any of this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Hi.
Well, a writer, actually. I've written some of the things I've directed.
Okay. Yes, I do know this. But to scale it back from the beginning, tell us where you're from.
I'm from Hollywood, California. Grew up on Orange Drive.
You're actually the second guest I've had this month that is from Los Angeles, which I don't know why it's always shocking to me. For some reason it is, because I just expect everyone to like not be from LA. And can you tell us like your background and your upbringing? Hello.
Hollywood. I mean, I grew up, like I said, on Orange Drive next to an original Munchkin from The Wizard of Oz. His name is Billy Curtis, and he was
Billy Curtis.
Yes, he was in movies like High Plains Drifter with Clint Eastwood, and I would just, as a little girl, see him walking down the street with these books in hand. He lived next door, and his granddaughter would come over like every other weekend or something like that, and we became best of friends. And when I went to their house, they had a slipper from The Wizard of Oz, like Dorothy's red ruby slipper, on top of their television. And there were so many great stories. His wife would sit me and my friend Linda on, in the back room, and we would watch Busby Berkeley movies and old Hollywood. I got really introduced to that. And he told me things like, if I were to be in that commercial, like that was a commercial, and I saw all those kids playing with toys, and that if you were on that set, if you were there, you could keep the toys. So that was a very good incentive to like, I was like,
I love it.
Wow. I loved this concept that, he opened these books and you saw the dialogue, and he said, all of this is in there. This is what they're saying. And I was fascinated by this concept. This is a script, and this gets in there. I just kind of fell in love with it and with what he was doing. And there was this way he held himself and, walking down the street very aristocratically. And there was a pride, the profession that he did, and I just loved it. And
What
so
a great way to like enter that world.
Yeah. And no one in my family, my mom worked for,
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Kaiser Permanente up on Sunset. I went to school at Blessed Sacrament and Gardner Elementary. And,
Are you an only child, or do we have
no, I
siblings?
had two older brothers. They were sent to live in Texas with my grandparents because my mom couldn't, handle them all. So I was here. And so it seemed I felt like an only child, even though my brothers were back in Texas.
Did your mom, did she see like that little performance in you and was like, no, she needs to like keep going with this? Like, what was that dynamic like, assuming that from a young age, this is what you wanted to do?
Well, I had an uncle. He passed away. He was the first in my family, in my generation, to pass away. He was very young. He passed away when he was around 28, 29. Okay. But he was a beautiful soul. Like, he bought me my first 3 records: Donna Summer, Linda Ronstadt, and Crystal Gale. And my first little turntable, the blue little turntable, it had a little clip on it, and you would open it up, listening to the music coming out of there. And my uncle, when I was a little old enough, they had this beautiful it was almost like furniture. You can open it up, and it was a turntable, a record player with amazing speakers, looked like furniture.
Record player is what's coming to mind, but I like turntable. Like, I want to go back to saying it that way.
And what he did was he would put, Donna Summer on, and, Bad Girls would come on, or Dim All the Lights. And he would pick me up and put me up there, and he would sit down and he would say, sing.
Oh my gosh.
And I'd be, dim all the lights, sweet darling,
Yes.
And I was just like,
oh my gosh, I'm ready for it.
Yeah. And he was just like, his eyes would light up. And of course, that's what I fell in love with.
Yeah.
The attention.
And
Yeah. Like, it was like magic.
Yeah.
It was like magic.
That's so cute.
Grabbed me. Yeah.
It reminded me of, my mom used to own a daycare in Turkey. And so the first like acting performance like thing that I got introduced to was they had like little performances between the daycares for kids. We had like put on a show, and we came in first place. And of course, like I was the lead. and like we had to do like a little dance. It was like a dance choreography thing with Yonca Evcimik. She's pretty big in Turkey, like growing up in the 90s. And I just thought, like, in my mind, that stadium or whatever we performed in was this like a massive thing with all these people.
Wow.
And I just remember the energy in it and like doing it. And I fell in love with it from a young age, not knowing what I was doing. My mom was also like the one who pushed me. Like it's nice to have at least one person in your family or like even your neighbor, someone who's close to you to kind of like introduce you to that world and push you, even if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
But that's so great that you had like your uncle and your neighbor, and what a great introduction. So you knew from a young age that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think I did. But I didn't do anything. Like I wasn't even in high school plays. I think in high school I was mostly production. Like I was almost too shy, you know, which is, because the school I went to, which was in Burbank, because when I went to high school, I would have gone to Hollywood High, but we moved and went into Burbank. There were musicals, and a lot of the people who were in these musicals, like they were award state winning singers.
Yeah.
Like, and I was so, a little like, I've never trained. I've never, I don't take that. And I was actually very much that side of the brain. I loved math. I was very analytical.
Yeah.
Which is strange. I still sort of am. I sort of have this dichotomy of, very artistic, but things need to make sense and balance the books and all that stuff.
I love that. I need
that. So I was shy. I mean, it wasn't until I got to college where I was like, all right, I want to major in acting. I want to major in
Where did you go
theater.
To college?
CSUN, Cal State Northridge.
Okay, cool. And then theater then, or no?
Theater then.
Okay.
Theater then.
All right, and then?
But, what's interesting is that I went and someone, a gal, she was so different than her acting was so good. I think I was just finishing my sophomore year, a freshman year, and she was a senior. And she was doing some scene or something or rehearsing, and she was just so good. And I'm like, this is unlike anything I have experienced in these classes, which actually were very hard for me because college teaches people things that they can grade. And I didn't know then, which I didn't feel I was doing very well in my acting class. Like I didn't get this. I'm like the 9 questions and Stanislavski and writing stuff down, and I didn't get it. And this girl's acting was so free. And I asked her, what's this class you do? And she goes, oh, I don't study here. So I go, well, where else do you study? And she goes, I'll tell you. And she wrote a name down on a little quad piece of paper, and the name was Sandy Marshall. Called that number, and I was around 19 years old, and I called her, and I had been studying with her ever since.
As background info, Sandy Marshall was your teacher who you trained under for a long time, who also was teaching our teacher now, Adam Harrington. So Sandy Marshall has taught a lot of people that's in our class now, but you started with her at 19, and that's amazing.
Yes. And on my first audition, I booked. It was a main stage production of Dark Rapture by Eric Overmyer. It went on to create the whole franchises with Dick Wolf over in New York.
So cool.
And I hadn't stopped working.
Yeah, you work a lot. She works nonstop, you guys. So when you say you didn't stop working then, when did you get into, because you're a massive voiceover actress as well, was that like just natural from doing like shows and films and whatnot, or?
I think, when I was a kid, I was also very nostalgic. My mom had a big family, they collected comics, and I started to collect comics when I was a little nerd girl. I'm not lying. And
I ain't lying.
I worked at, and it's still around, but I worked at this shop called the Golden Apple. And it was on Melrose, closer to Fairfax back then. Okay. And I used to ride my banana bike over there and work for credit and a lot of comics. So
that's so cool.
And so my mom and her brothers, they collected comics. And there was this piece of nostalgia. I think in my head, as one does when you read, you just like fall into these characters. And so I had this sort of like inkling and love for the voices. And I always did voices.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, knowing that this was a profession, I just sort of did them because,
you're a kid and you're playing around
I'm just
in your
mimicking
mind.
or doing stuff. I think had that on the back burner. But certainly when I started in the profession, I didn't realize it was. I realized that's another offshoot of this profession. I said, why not? But I would be lying if I said that when I first started, I started booking. No.
Yeah.
Like I think I think this is the second voiceover agent I have, and I still haven't left Imperium 7. Audition after audition after audition. And it's very different than on camera acting. On camera acting, you've gotten to know people, the casting directors, the producers, you could see them pre-COVID, and you have a history. With voiceover, unless you've gotten the job already, sometimes even the casting directors aren't in the booth. It's the voice director, which is different than the casting director. You don't know who these people are.
To record you, like
but they direct you. Voice directors direct you, but they're not the casting directors. It's a different sort of process, and so there's this little bit of void. So you don't see them. You don't know. There's no instant feedback, getting to know them because you're in here doing this,
Check.
So it's just auditioning into the void and doing it and doing it and doing it and just listening and trying to get better and listening to animation or commercials and seeing what's in fashion, who they're hiring, what that is. And then you sort of learn. It's only within the last, I would think, 5-6 years that I really started to work in voiceover. And I still can say that I wish I worked more. I want to work more.
I love it. You will, for sure. And like, what a beautiful full circle, because the show that you voice over now is Batman.
Yes, Batman Cape Crusader.
Yeah. So is that done, or how's that?
Well, Batman Cape Crusader season 2, I finished doing season 2. Season 1 is still out. I don't know when season 2 is coming out, but that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like that was my very first series regular role. It took a very long time for me to do that. And I still am so humbled that I get to play an iconic DC character, Renee Montoya, who is a lesbian, who is Latina. But also what I love about this reincarnation is that, we don't talk about her ethnicity. She is who she is.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love about it, is that, diversity, I think, is stronger when you don't have to sit and say anything, or you don't have an accent. The only accent I have is a little bit of sort of the noirish sort of New York thing that Renee does or has in her character.
I love how you just put that. I think it's like beautifully put. The industry is growing and they are more open, and there are, a lot of diversities being cast and stuff, but I feel like it's still really hard.
It is, especially because, you have, they try and do a good job, but representation can mean a lot of things. What kind of representation? Are you the drug dealer? Because I did a lot of those when I was in my early 20s.
Michelle, I can't see you as a drug dealer.
Or the druggie.
I can see the drug lord, like the boss lady who's
or the druggie. Oh no, I was a druggie, or the crying mom.
Okay.
With the accent.
Yeah.
It was a type of representation, but, we didn't begin to see the kind of representation that we're starting to. And, Latinos are very underrepresented in the industry. Yeah. We still are, after the UCLA 2025 report on diversity, it's still lacking. We've had some little bits of forward movement, but I'm about the kind of representation. And it's a fine line, because I have done some recently with accents, but it's in the context of the whole thing. Why does this character have an accent? Is she just having an accent because she's a maid cleaning a window?
Yeah.
Or does she have an accent because there's something cultural there? There's something significant there. There's something to say. And that's a character that I would not mind. I don't mind doing that because it's something true and real and representative, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the American scene.
Growing up in your household, like with your mom, did you guys speak only English, or because
No.
you speak multiple languages?
I speak. It's such an interesting question, Nihan, because growing up, I was ashamed of speaking Spanish because I was spat at, I was chased, not only by crazy people, but also, I was leered at by disgusting guys, and I understood what they were saying. And it made me like, I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot in school. They absolutely did not want you to speak Spanish.
That's wild.
It was, you were punished
Wow.
in one way or another. And that's, you know, I have just recently been listening to and hearing other Latinas and Latinos talk about this, just start to talk about this. And I didn't realize it. You know, it's one of those, oh my God, you too, is that we grew up suppressed even in our own embracement of culture because it's a type of offshoot of segregation. You know, they don't want you to speak Spanish. You are
Yeah.
in America,
Yeah.
English, you know, and so that's what I grew up with. But my mother, she would speak Spanish in the home and I would understand it and speak it, but sort of wanting more to speak English. And then once again, you kind of go back to, well, what am I seeing on television? There was no representation of Latinos, especially kind of like what we just talked about, you know, like I recently wrapped, you know, my, I think a 3-season arc on 911 Lone Star, playing a character who had no accent, just me.
Yeah.
And that's what I love the most. Ryan Murphy is so good at that and involving his world with so many diverse faces and voices. And I did not need to speak with an accent. I spoke just like I'm speaking now, but the representation was there. And so I didn't have that growing up. I didn't see the reflection of, look at her, I could be this boss lady.
Yeah.
And so there was a bit of erasure, like, who am I? So if you're going out into the world, I must be wrong speaking how I speak, so I won't speak it. And so that's the shame.
Yeah.
So now, and this is so interesting because being in voiceover, I'm getting a lot of, my Spanish has gotten better auditioning for voiceovers in Spanish.
That's awesome.
Because I can, oh, that didn't sound right. Oh, you know, or like, so that's been great. I have such a pride and it's good to talk about it because it's not as good as others. You know, I don't talk like as quickly as one would see in Telemundo broadcasts, but I'm getting there.
I'm so glad you first of all, thank you for sharing that. I think it's very brave. And this is the podcast of like exactly what I do want to talk about. Aside from like the industry being hard, you know, when you're not white or whatever and being underrepresented. But your story reminded me of when I went back to Turkey in 2019 and I was a series regular on a show. And the director randomly just saw my first co-star was Westworld. So he had seen my name like 3-4 years prior. I booked this show and they knew because I had been in America for so long. My mom would speak Turkish, single mom who worked a lot. So like the little Turkish that I would hear from her and whatever, I would speak English. When I went back, I had a heavy American accent speaking Turkish. And when I was on set, I kind of went through exactly what you were describing in a sense that like, it was not okay that I had an accent. And this is not 10 years ago. This is like 2019. It's not that far. When I went back speaking my own language that I, you know, was born into was such a big thing for me and like such a happy moment. And I felt like they took that away from me for a little while. Like I was really sad leaving because it wasn't okay that I was speaking Turkish with an accent. I love languages. I think they're so amazing. And when you have an accent, it should be okay because you didn't grow up there. Am I explaining this
Yes,
right?
in Spanish, there's something, what I'm relating to what you're saying is that, you know, because I'm Mexican and there's, you know, ni de aquí, ni de allá. And what that means is from neither here or there.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And it doesn't make me less Mexican. And that's what
No.
I'm embracing. And it doesn't make you less Turkish.
I
You are a
agree.
Turkish woman.
Yeah. You should have actually more characters on your show that have an accent that speak the language because that's worldly representative of Turkish people or Mexican or
Yes,
Latina.
it
or,
doesn't make you any less of who you are.
It broke my heart for a little bit and I didn't want to go back to Turkey for a bit just because I had this dream of being an international actress where I, you know, did projects here, but then I could go there and feeling like I'm not enough here or there. That little cup was like being filled a little bit. And I felt like it tainted that picture for me when I left after that time because it made me feel like I wasn't enough and that I need to be a certain
that interesting?
way.
And isn't that interesting? Because the society, and it seems like it's sort of universal.
Yeah.
It's like you have to fit this certain mold or you're not complete. And what we're learning is that, no, you are complete because this is how the world has made you. It doesn't make you any less. And it's about embracing that,
Absolutely.
embracing our differences as part of the whole,
Yeah.
you know?
I think as I got older too, going into that experience, I felt very confident with myself. And obviously that was a learning curve because it broke me a little bit, but it also, it makes you stronger in a sense of like, well, I don't see any Turkish people who speak the way I speak Turkish and how I can flip it and speak English without an accent.
That's right.
Those people need to be represented more as well.
That's why you're so important.
Yeah.
And that's what I started to learn. It's like, that is why I'm so important. You know, it's just whatever they want, you know, whatever they choose. And I think the challenge is reminding those producers, which is why, from the perspective of the Latino culture in Hollywood, we need more creators who are Latino. But with what's going down right now in the administration and the closing of DEIs, you know, DEI projects or certain sections of the studio, that's hugely disadvantageous for everybody because it's those people, the Latino writers or the Latino directors who get a shot. You know, their perspectives matter. But if we're somehow or another not given that opportunity, how are we to be reflected? You know, I did a show recently called On Call with Dick Wolf. Amazing. Elliot Wolf, his son, Tim Walsh, created another wonderful world that took place in Long Beach. Characters, I did speak with an accent in that one, but it was representative. It was representative of what's going on. And the character, one of the characters, I played his mother, Brandon Laracuente. He was Latino. You know, just having him there mattered. But it's interesting because it took a Caucasian man to write this story. That's really the conversation we need to have in Hollywood.
Yeah.
To educate more people like Dick Wolf and his son Elliot and Tim Walsh know these worlds and more are way open to it. They're the coolest guys in the world.
I was going to say to be open to it and like
because
collaborate.
That this can be a part of
Absolutely.
Of what can be reflective. And by the way, just like I think it scored like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes and won and just had amazing ratings for like people suck it up.
Yeah.
There is a place for this type of storytelling, and so we need to educate people more on that, I think.
And is that how you kind of segued it into writing your own story and like wanting to direct it and stuff?
I wasn't thinking that way. I mean, there was my first short film that I wrote, Slip Away, was based on the relationship I had with my first addict alcoholic.
Okay.
And that was crazy. And that's sort of like what happens with me. If it gets too crazy, I need to write about it.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
your
like
therapy.
that's, I guess so. And the only way I know how to write really, and that made sense, was in script form. I just vowed to myself the second time that I would create and write a short. And it happened when my partner passed away 9 years ago, and I wrote a short called I Just Wish You Told Me. And I directed that.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful experience. I really wanted to. All my years on ER paid off. I had a huge hospital scene and just played with the Steadicam and loved
That's
all
so
that
cool.
stuff. And so I think real life experience for me sort of gave me the impetus to create that. But very specifically, I like to write and create not from a place of being a Latina. That it's on the very forefront of my mind. It's a story, whether it was Slip Away, a story about a same-sex relationship and what goes wrong when someone chooses something over the other, or whether it's about a same-sex couple who I never once talked about me being a Latin woman and my partner was Caucasian. I never once talk about that because it was a story about a type of betrayal of not telling me the whole story. So it was a more universal story of what happens in a relationship and the horrible things that can go wrong if you're not open and honest in a relationship. That's the storytelling that I like to tell. You know, I don't like to hit it over the head.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's how it should be. When you put something in a box, it takes it away from what you're trying to communicate to the world, I think, when it comes to storytelling. You're an award, the short film that you directed, You won some awards. Tell me about the
Well,
awards.
I've won some awards for the short film that I did for Slipaway. A lot
Yes.
of like festival awards. I won an award for I Just Wish You Told Me. But the big
Yeah.
award that I won was an Alma Award for a PBS show that I did called Seeing Through Walls, and Carlos Avila directed a series of short stories that ended up on PBS. Beautiful, beautiful storyteller. He's gone on to do a lot of other great things and wonderful films. And his wife, Elaine, is a magnificent costume designer. That I won an award, an Alma Award, which is the American Latino Media Arts
Yeah.
Award for my portrayal in Seeing Through
amazing.
Walls. Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was, again, that's
Yeah.
really wonderful. I mean, we unfortunately don't have any more Alma Awards. I hope that they bring it back. We do have an award called the Amahin Award and then Ola Award. And, you know, I hope to get more of those too.
Justin's like, yes.
Yeah. You know,
Are you a foodie? Do you like
I
what
love,
sort of, yeah.
I love food.
like when you're home, what are we cooking?
Well, lightly seasoning like chicken, like organic chicken breast, and I'm putting that on the skillet, and I love to throw that on a salad with some heirloom tomatoes, and always have a little hummus on the side with some
Yes.
bread, like, you know, some whole wheat pita. That's quick. I love salmon, sauteed vegetables, and tofu. Very simple,
Yeah.
I would say. I'm a simple, love chocolate. Always got to have
Okay.
the little room for dark chocolate.
Is there like a favorite restaurant that you go to in LA? Just like growing up here, I'm
Oh,
sure
wow.
like there's been turnovers, but like
Yeah, for sure.
like a mom and pop place that like you've always just like gone back to.
Sushi Yen Sushi.
Okay.
There's a couple actually. There's
Okay.
one on Hillhurst,
Okay.
but the one I love is in Sherman Oaks.
Okay.
That was mom and pop. I went there all through the pandemic.
Yeah.
The freshest fish for sushi, not overly expensive, very, you know, you could just chill. It's always consistent, not a bad day. I love Lala's Argentine Grill. I love especially.
Oh, that's on Melrose or
There's one on
Okay.
Melrose and there's one in Studio City. And my
Okay.
mouth is watering already because I'm thinking of their
know.
chimichurri sauce
Lala's.
on that
I haven't
bread.
been to the one in Studio City. I remember really liking
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so good. And
Okay.
I'm thrilled because it's hard to find good Mexican and have good margaritas.
Okay,
and
yes, tell
Merrick's
me this.
Tex-Mex just opened right back up in West Hollywood.
Wait,
They-
on Santa Monica Boulevard?
off of Santa Monica
Okay.
Boulevard. They just had their reopening. And
my
I
gosh.
can't wait to go back and get one of their kick-ass margaritas. And they have very good food.
Okay, this is so good to know because
Yes.
there's so many like Mexican restaurants and because LA has so much of like different kinds. That was my next question is like, where's your like favorite Mexican place to go to?
Yep.
Okay, so what was it? Chex Mix?
Merrick's Tex-Mex.
Merrick's. I don't know why I said Chex Mix.
Because maybe you're thinking cereal?
Merrick's? I don't know. Okay.
Are you having a cereal moment?
We love a good margarita.
Oh,
and a dinner
that,
moment.
oh, it's
Okay.
so good. Now, in all fairness, now don't write me and tell me that sucks. They just reopened, so I have not had a chance. But
Okay.
in the past,
That
it
was
was
the
always
it
very
spot.
good. So
Good margaritas.
I love a good French restaurant. I love good
Okay.
jazz, vibrato.
Have you been to the Baked Potato?
I have, actually. That's in Studio City.
Oh, this is a good question.
Okay.
Justin.
Okay.
to ask you. Thanks, Justin. Not to segue away from margaritas. How do you take care of your voice as a voiceover actor? Because you're constantly talking in your normal day life, but also as a profession. How does one do that?
Well, I can take care of my voice in a myriad of ways, especially like if you have to know when your voice is getting tired. For example, today I didn't even get through the auditions I had, but you can see it. Am I doing a video game? Am I screaming? Am I doing a car commercial, or am I doing some type of food? And how young is my voice? And an animated one. So I kind of go from easiest to hardest. You hear people talk about warming their voice up. I don't always warm my voice up, but I warm my voice up if I know I'm going to strain my voice because I need to place my voice. I'm a mezzo-soprano, so I will warm up in my mezzo-soprano voice.
I don't know what that means, but my producer Justin does. He did musical theater, but it sounds really cool.
Well, so I can go high and I can go low,
Okay.
right? And
Okay.
so when I place that voice, and let's say I'm screaming or whatever, I will place that scream in a place where it won't hurt me here. I'll maybe place the scream, and I'm touching because it's, it's
feel
behind, it's in the upper palate, or it's, it's in different places for me. Everyone is
Right.
different. Or if, for example, my agent sends me something, like this happened very often, like I would get auditions for video games and I would say, I'm doing Batman the next day.
Yeah.
Well, Renee talks in this register. I would never do a video game audition where I'm screaming
Right.
because that could potentially hurt my voice, even if I've taken care of it.
Wow.
Like tea and honey, Manuka honey, that is good for the voice. Or I don't talk.
What was the most challenging voiceover character that you've done?
I think the most challenging would be the video games. When you're screaming, I played Scribe Valdez in a video game, a Fallout 76, for a couple of them. She didn't have a lot of screaming, but certainly when you're playing tertiary characters, or, you have to just be careful. That's always the hardest.
Yeah.
That's always the hardest because you don't want to blow your voice.
Okay. And before we wrap up, I know
This went too quickly.
I have so many other questions. I do know you have something that's like coming out. I don't know if you can say it or anything, but like, is there anything you want to plug in?
Well,
that
I have
you can
Batman season 2 should be coming out. I
Okay.
don't know when.
where can people watch that?
They can see it on a Prime Video on Amazon.
Love
I
it.
practically do everything. Apparently, I'm just a Prime Amazon
I love it.
person. I mean, all
Okay.
my stuff is coming out there. I do have something coming out, but I am not at liberty to say.
Okay.
But it is wonderful, and I can't wait to talk about it. I got an audition for this role.
Yeah.
The breakdown said, no need to memorize this, but we need it back as soon as possible.
Yes.
Tomorrow morning. And I was just like,
And if you're a good actor,
well,
and
and
fucking memorize.
it's 8 pages. It was 8 pages.
And it's 8 pages.
No need to memorize. And the thing about this is that a very good friend of mine who is in the theater, or she owns a co-owner of a theater company here in Los Angeles, a Latino theater company. She was working on this project and they couldn't find this person, my character, in New York, in Chicago. And, they did a huge search for her. They were looking for a Mexican woman. And this person, I know, she is Mexican. She's very good friends with the creator of the show. And he went to her and said, do you know of any? She was like, well, of course I do.
Right.
And I'll give you a list right now. And I was one of those people on the list.
I love it.
I actually thought she was writing on it, which I later found out that she wasn't. But
Yeah.
because of it, I was like, oh no, I want to memorize this. I want to be true. It was beautiful writing. And I'm like, so I did it and I worked on it and I submitted it and didn't hear anything for about a month. And then my agent contacted me and they said, you are on hold for it. And I was like, what?
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And then I didn't hear anything. She goes,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I must not have gotten it. And then like 3 weeks later, they said, you are it.
So like literally 2 months after the initial audition.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I like don't even want to know if I'm on hold because it just like, that's all I'm going to think about.
Yeah. But what made me feel good about this
Yeah.
was that it was the first time I experienced in my profession as a Latina. I hear about this a lot in the African-American actor community and actress community. They always lift each other up.
Absolutely.
And this was the first time where I really felt like someone went like this for me.
Yeah.
And they pulled me up. And I was,
And it was
so
just a
touched and
simple-
moved
Yeah.
that she thought of me.
Absolutely.
I to this day, we still have yet to have coffee because of all the world events going on and just working and getting together, not even world events, but it was such a touching moment and I've been doing this for 31 years.
Yeah.
It was the first time that another person so openly gestured in that way. And I called her and I thanked her
Of course.
for it. And she's like, no, I was crying. I was like, I
Yeah.
can't believe you did this.
to her, it's like, what a great honor for her to like think of you, but you did the work.
I
and
think
you're
I did the work.
talented And like,
Thank you. And
know.
I guess I was just thinking that she wrote it and she herself is a writer
yeah.
and has written so many wonderful plays at the Latino Theater Company where they produce the plays, and I wanted to do her justice. That was the most thing. I didn't want to mess up.
This. Well, is this going to be on Amazon too? Do we know yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Love it. Okay.
That's what I do, I guess.
So we're going to keep an eye on it. I'm so excited for you. Thank you
Yes.
so much for coming and like telling me very brave stories. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're in class, but anytime Michelle goes up, you guys, it's like effortless. And
she's
it's
too
the
kind.
most like, yeah.
You're
So
too
I really
kind.
look up to you. Thank you so much. This means so much to me that you even
Of
like took the
course.
time, because I know you're busy, to come on the podcast. And
Well, it's a
thank
wonderful
you.
podcast. It's lovely around
Thank
here.
you. Keep an eye on all the Amazon shows for you.
Yeah. Or you can find me on Instagram at themichellebonilla.com.
Perfect. Thank you for plugging that in, because that was next.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I love you, Nihan.
I love you too. Thanks, guys. That's all for today. I don't know. Is that what I'm supposed to say? We're done. Let's get margaritas.